Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 327th ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel, recording from the MSP studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's
Hope
2025.
2025. Hope you had a good Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Did you survived the holidays?
I did. Did you?
Barely. We made it.
We made it.
Yeah, it was a little hectic. Emily was sick, like right after Christmas. She went down with a sickness. And so I had family in town. So I was on my own, me and the kiddo, trying to do family stuff without Emily. So it was stressful. Wow. I did not get to watch enough football. So I don't know. Give and take a little bit.
Yeah, it's a two-person game. Usually, that's how I feel about taking care of kids and trying to go to all the family stuff and holiday festivities, and it is hard to do by yourself. So
luckily, my family understood what was going on. So when we would arrive at the family function, I was actually able to just relax a little bit, and plenty of people were helping during that time. So shout out to everybody, and hopefully everybody had a good Christmas and stayed safe and got to see family and everything. Kyle, we've got this episode that people are listening to, and probably just one more. And we've talked about a little bit like spread out over the last month. If anybody wants more of our thoughts on that, you can listen to the October 30th episode where we first announced that. But actually, the real reason we're quitting the podcast, the real reason we're retiring, is because we pronounced Bo Pribula. We pronounced it wrong.
Last week,
yeah.
Yeah, we're very sorry. We're ashamed, and thank you for those who pointed it out. We are now going away forever.
Yeah, so if anybody asks, we're quitting the podcast because we're too embarrassed of that mistake. But
no way, it's Pribula.
Pribula.
It's got to be Pribula.
Pribula, I thought Pribula like fibula.
Exactly.
Makes sense, but it could be emphasis on the U, Pribula. It's not Pribula. It's not Pribula. We know that much. Speaking of him, though, we had a couple questions in the comments last week about what his addition to the quarterback room might mean for Zollers and Sam Horn. Do you have a take on that? I think I saw, with Zollers and Pribula both being from Pennsylvania, I saw some people talking about they actually know each other, or their families know each other or something, and that might have been what actually brought him to Columbia.
Yeah. I mean, it really would appear that Pribula is the guy next year. I don't know if this is confirmed or officially reported or anything like that, but the rumors are that he's receiving a nice chunk of change from NIL money to come to Missouri. You typically are not doing that unless that person is your day one starter.
Right.
Not saying he can't, he's just going to sleepwalk into that, but man, I don't know. I don't really see anybody else taking that job next year. Sam Horn, I think I have been kind of a Sam Horn stan. But he really did not take advantage of his opportunity. And now, he's trying to play baseball and football. He's clearly talented. He's got a great arm, but there's a lot more.
He's been injured as well.
Yeah. There's a lot more to being an SEC quarterback than just having a strong arm. And it sounded like maybe he wasn't putting all the pieces together, kind of on the field, off the field, whatever.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be totally shocked if Sam Horn and Pribula both kind of found a way to play some next year. I kind of feel like Zollers, there's a 0% chance Zollers is playing next season, and I think he would probably tell you that too. That just with his gruesome ankle injury, next year is a recovery year, and then all bets are off after that. Yeah.
Redshirt Zollers, let him recover, and they're both from Pennsylvania. I read that their families are friends, so I'm sure there was some kind of communication to him. Probably all the quarterbacks just hey, look, we're going to go try to get a guy to come in here and play next year. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll be some kind of competition, like you said, between him and Horn. But I don't see I would not be concerned at all with like Zollers feeling left out or feeling like you came and got a guy when he was supposed to be the next guy.
Yeah.
Maybe if he wasn't injured,
Right.
there would be a little concern there. Still coming in as a freshman, you got to hope that he's patient enough to learn for a season or two behind somebody.
Yeah, I would definitely think so. And just comparing like Pribula's skill set with Sam Horn in like my like amateur scouting abilities, they really feel like complete opposite players. Pribula more mobile, less arm talent. Like Sam Horn, kind of, I wouldn't say a statue, but he's not gonna rush for 50 plus yards in a game usually.
Right.
But kind of has a cannon for an arm. So those guys are totally different. Zollers to me kind of has both of those abilities. I think he's definitely like the highest ceiling, most well-rounded prospect we've seen come through in a long time.
Yeah, the recruiting services have him as one of the highest, if not the highest rated quarterback recruit for Mizzou. Yeah, so I think overall you got to feel somewhat optimistic, somewhat comfortable with the quarterback spot. Next year will be a little bit of a question mark just because we're going to be relying, no matter who we go with, we're relying on somebody that hasn't done a lot at the college level, especially in the SEC. But I think I feel comfortable with it, not setting expectations too high. I feel like there's nothing to worry about. Now, Mizzou football had a big bowl game. Missouri was able to knock off Iowa in the Music City Bowl 27-24. Took a second half comeback. They were down 10 points at one point. Watching this game, a couple moments stand out for me. Early on when Iowa had that first third down, as soon as I saw the quarterback's eyes looking deep, I was like, oh no.
You knew.
I knew. I was like, they're going to get a chunk here,
Yeah.
and this game is not going to go the way we thought.
Yeah. Well, which is like the one thing that we feel like we can defend against is the pass.
Yeah.
Like clearly the dude could run. Like he was
Right.
mobile. That's what that was the game plan coming in, was just contain the quarterback rush and we'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
And then just immediately like the most beautiful like third down pass.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even really have to go that deep, but they
Yes.
did. And he just put it exactly where it had to be.
Yeah, and it was such a perfect play call there. As soon as I saw his eyes looking downfield, I was like, oh, this is going to be a big completion, because it felt like, oh, they're going to, if they try to run the ball here on 3rd and 4 or whatever it was, it just felt like Missouri was ready to slam the door in their face and take over on offense, and it maybe be the kind of game that we were expecting. I was not expecting Iowa to jump out to an early lead. That first possession, they scored a touchdown. That was more points than I predicted they would score all game.
Yeah, we definitely predicted low scoring games. Yeah. I think we both thought it would be close, but I was very surprised that both teams came out firing on offense a little bit. And I guess, it is bowl season when there's not that much on the line.
Yeah.
Like comparatively to some other games.
You got some continuity issues from the regular season with guys opting out.
Haven't played in a month. You've got opt-outs. Yeah, there's definitely like arguments to be made for like more offense than maybe if you played this game mid-season or something. But I was still pretty surprised. And I mean, the whole first couple of drives for Iowa was that way, where their quarterback was just kind of firing away, and it was like guys were just open down the field. He was making good throws, and it was a little. The defense for Missouri's defense looked pretty bad.
Yeah. Luckily, they kind of figured it out, and the second half was a lot better defensively. Also, they were handicapped by a kickoff return touchdown.
Yes.
That Iowa was able to pull off.
Man, we were getting absolutely dominated in the special teams game. Like for the first 3 drives, I think the first 2 returns that Missouri had, we were tackled inside the 15.
Yeah.
And then Iowa has that kickoff for a touchdown return. Like, man, the special teams were awful in the first half. That
script got flipped as well in the second half. I'm trying to go in some kind of order here, but basically, Brady Cook another thing that we didn't expect, Iowa's defense just completely shut down Missouri's running backs. Brady Cook was able to get out and do something with his legs. It looked like they were doing a good job in coverage on the back end. Iowa was. They were also not giving running lanes for Missouri's running backs, but that left Brady Cook able to extend the play with his legs, and he was the leading rusher for Missouri. He had 14 rushes for 54 yards.
Yeah.
The rest of the team combined for 19 rushes for 35 yards, 1.8 yards per carry.
Yeah.
For everyone not named Brady Cook.
Yeah, it really felt like this was the first game all season where we were pass first.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Brady Cook leading rusher on the game. He had 14 rushes. Marcus Carroll had 6 attempts. Nate Noel had 6 attempts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't working, and they just didn't even try. They just liked what they were getting through the air.
I think it was after the first quarter, Coach Drinkwitz did a sideline interview, and he was like, we got to get the run game going. It just didn't happen. He specifically said, we got to get the run game going with somebody other than Brady. And it didn't happen. Which, yeah, like you said, bizarre to see because that hadn't happened basically all season, no matter who Missouri was playing.
It feels like early in the year they would have just forced it. I feel like that's the first time I've seen them just be okay with pivoting. And, maybe Brady is healthier than he's been all season. I have no idea, but it was very interesting to see them just quickly pivot to pass first, and it worked really well.
Yeah, he was able to get it done through the air. 18 of 32 passing, 287, and 2 touchdowns. Theo Weiss was the guy early, obviously no Luther Burden, and a little bit of depth issues, no Mekhi Miller, but Theo Weiss gets it going early, 5 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown just in the first half, because I think it was right at the end of the first half. He got banged up, couldn't return for the second half.
I think it was that play where he got hit pretty hard and they called targeting initially and then reviewed it and said it wasn't targeting, which honestly, I was probably fine. I mean, I feel like that was probably the right call.
I thought the officiating was a little goofy all game with just I think that big picture in college football, they kind of shoot themselves in the foot by just seeming so, I don't know. They just review everything.
Yeah.
They just seem like they never can be confident on the call with the call on the field. So every single play is oh, but is there actually something else going on?
We can look.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought the officiating was kind of weird all game. Missouri benefited from a late hit out of bounds call late in the game that extended a drive that led to a field goal. That was a little bit of a questionable call. The roughing the passer, I think it was Eddie Kelly that just kind of pushed the quarterback. I thought the announcers were spot on with that. That was not really that aggressive of a play, but also just super unnecessary. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Did you notice we had the SEC Network crew, Taylor Zarzer and Matt Stinchcomb? It's these guys sound kind of familiar. They called over half of our games this season.
Right. But it was an ACC officiating crew. So we'll just chalk that up to the problems that we had there. But yeah, so Weiss goes down, but Marquise Johnson, breakout game for him, 7 receptions, 122 yards and a touchdown, and he could have had more. Yeah. I know he had at least one drop that was completely on him. Brady threw one behind him that could have gone for a little bit more on a slant. But what I was really impressed with Marquise is the skill set that he showed, catching balls over the middle in traffic, got the deep ball where he went up and got it. It was a little bit underthrown. And he had a back shoulder catch on the sideline. So he was doing it all.
Yeah.
And especially giving Brady the confidence to throw over the middle like we hadn't seen a whole lot this year.
Yeah, that was a classic, where has this been all season game for Marquise Johnson. Very much looked like the player that we hoped to see this season. And, I mean, we knew that there was a lot of players in front of him on the depth chart. Just obviously, you've got Luther Burden, Theo Weiss. Those guys aren't going anywhere on the depth chart. Mookie Cooper even maybe. So it was a similar situation to last year depth chart-wise, but I still expected to see Marquise Johnson, make big plays or expand the route tree, and it felt like he really took a step back this season. So in this game, it was very much maybe he just felt like he had the green light to go be the guy, and no Luther Burden, Theo Weiss got hurt. Nobody else is going to do it except me.
Yeah,
and that was exactly what happened.
Yeah, Daniel Blood had a big third down catch, but there was a little bit the passing game. When they were hitting, it was really impressive. It was just a little bit inconsistent that I think would have really broken the game open for Missouri's offense. But the defense, I feel like Johnny Walker had a few huge plays late. The defense really stepped up in the second half and was getting after the quarterback, not letting him extend plays with his legs as much. On the play, a pivotal play after Toriano Pride had actually had kind of a huge mistake where he just kind of hit a guy with his shoulder on third down and it didn't wrap up and make the tackle, let him get a first down.
Would have been like 3 or 4 yards shy of the first down.
Yeah.
And he just kind of shoulder checked him.
Yes. And easy first down for Iowa, but he made up for it huge with interception late. And Corey Flagg kind of ran the quarterback to the sideline, kept him in front of him, and then just a bad throw, and then a really nice play by Toriano Pride to jump in front of it and get the interception.
Yeah. Yeah, defense looked totally different in the second half. Iowa quarterback looked like a totally different player in the second half. I thought I maybe heard his splits at one point in the game. I don't know what they ended up being, but at one point it felt like maybe into the fourth quarter he only had like 20 passing yards or something in the second half, or something like that. So clearly Missouri made adjustments that totally changed the game.
Yeah, and that's such a that should be such a confidence boost for the fan base that you have a guy at quarterback who you just don't know much about, and has some success in the first half, and you're able to go make some halftime adjustments on this guy that you don't know very well from a scouting standpoint, and then basically shut him down in the second half. Mm-hmm. That's just, I don't know. You can't ask for much more than that out of a defensive staff their first time seeing a quarterback.
Yeah.
Late in the game, I mentioned earlier that kind of bailout call with the late hit out of bounds. That was on a 3rd and 20 with a check down pass to Jamal Roberts, I think. And he was not going to get the first down, but then they got that penalty. And then Blake Craig hit a 51-yarder, and he wasn't done. He hit a 56-yard field goal that was the game winner. Ended up being the game winner. And
it looked easy.
It did.
Both of them.
I feel like Blake Craig feels like, to me, tell me if this makes sense, he's on he's doing almost like the opposite of Harrison Mevis, where I feel like Mevis, or at least he's setting up that trajectory.
The possibility.
Where Mevis came out and was like the best kicker we've ever seen as a freshman, redshirt freshman, true freshman, I can't remember, and kept up pretty well, but then just kind of, it seemed like became like a normal kicker eventually.
Yeah.
And he still had a crazy leg, and obviously the record-setting, game-winning kick against Kansas State will always be legendary. But it feels like Blake Craig, he has had some struggles, missed a couple clutch kicks this year, and he's been better at 50+ than 40 to 49, which is kind of odd. But
I think that's where he and Harrison Mevis are the same, actually, is where Mevis at the end of his career kind of had some accuracy issues with closer field goals, but if he just had to kick it as hard as he could, he would just nail it.
Right.
And that's kind of what Blake Craig has done this year.
Yeah. So I feel like this is what I'm hoping for, and this is what I'm trying to manifest, is Blake Craig. Not only will he keep making those 50+ yarders in game winners and stuff, but he's gonna dial in the accuracy. And with this amount of attempts that he's bound to have in this offense moving forward, I feel like he's on GOAT trajectory. Right now.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many. I'm gonna get a little philosophical here for a second. It's amazing how many football games come down to a field goal kick or an extra point kick or something. It's like this thing that's fundamentally so different from anything else that happens in a football game.
I think we're an hour removed right now from Texas kicker missing 2 game winners at the end of that game.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I was rooting for Arizona State. I'm sure you were at the end of that one.
Of course.
Yeah, I've always wondered what football would look like. I mean, you can kind of imagine it, but I've always thought it'd be worth seeing football without kickers. No kickoffs, no punts, no extra points, no field goals. It's just offense and defense. Start at the 20-yard line. You go for it on 4th down.
Yeah, a little backyard football type of style.
Yeah. Run it in for 1 point, throw it in for 2, or everything's a 2-point conversion. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it. What do you think, Producer Cameron? You might have an opinion on that.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see at least. I don't know.
I think,
every time there's a rule change, I'm I don't like this because of this. And then eventually I come around to it.
I want to see a league that's just like the no kicker league.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have kickers in like arena football and stuff like that?
You would think not.
I literally don't know.
I have no idea. That'd be the place to try it, though.
Yeah.
If only we had been to a game.
Yeah, if only Springfield, Missouri had like a AA arena football league that we could have gone and
Specifically
watched.
called the Lunkers.
Yeah, if only the Springfield Lunkers. Are they still
Are they,
functioning?
are they still in solvency?
I have no idea. As far as I know, they're lunkering.
Oh man,
The Ozark Lunkers.
Ozark Lunkers.
Yeah, I get it right.
They're Springfield Lunkers to me.
We might get a soccer team,
MLS.
minor league.
Oh,
We get all the minor league teams here
Wow.
in every sport.
we used to have a minor league hockey team.
That was like minor league.
Minor league. That you think the minor league hockey team was more minor than the Ozark Lunkers?
No, I compare everything to the Springfield Cardinals.
There we go.
That's the most major minor we have here.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's pretty major. What were we talking about? The Music City Bowl. Missouri won 27-24. Did you know that was a revenge game, Kyle?
What, for quitting because we had COVID?
No. Yes, that too. But
the
also,
Insight Bowl in 2010?
you got it. The Insight Bowl in 2010. Do you know what the score of the Insight Bowl in 2010 was?
No, but I remember it was really close, and I remember being really mad as like I don't know, 15-year-old kid or something.
Iowa beat Missouri in the 2010 Insight Bowl 27-24. The
Wow.
exact same score.
Huh.
Yeah. 2010 was also the last time Mizzou finished 10-3. And Missouri just finished 10-3. Obviously, they had their 10th win before the bowl game at that time. But yeah, Missouri finishes 10-3 on the season. That is just the 8th 10-win season, 10 or more win season in Mizzou history, which means 25% of all the double-digit win seasons in Mizzou history belong to Eli Drinkwitz.
That's crazy.
Now, I did look up here, caveat. College football moved to a 12-game regular season in just 2006.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was more recent than I thought.
That is really recent.
Yeah, 2005, 2006, right before I knew what college football was.
Basically.
So it hasn't been that long that it's been this easy, in quotes, to get 10 wins.
Got to throw all the records out, man.
Yeah.
In NFL and in college, they just keep changing the goalposts on us.
Back-to-back double-digit win seasons, though.
Yeah, I think Coach Drinkwitz knows what he's doing, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's been some weird decisions. There's been some very blatant mess ups in game, which honestly probably feels like somehow his weakest point. At least maybe that's changed now. But like when he first got to Missouri, that was 100% where he needed to improve, was like in game, like situational stuff.
That could still be his weakest point.
Yeah.
Even with, and maybe setting a higher bar.
Yeah.
Because everything else is clicking pretty well.
For sure. Maybe some time management stuff here and there, whatever.
Yeah.
But like the dude knows how to run a program.
Yeah.
He knows how to get a group of people to work together for a common goal.
Yes.
And like just the way I was watching the post game presser from this game, and they had Brady Cook and Johnny Walker and like Blake Craig and Marquise Johnson all up there, but and coach was up there with him. But and I've heard it a couple times now, just talking about the how toxic things were when Coach came in, and kind of the crossover from the Barry Odom era into the Coach Drinkwitz era. Like that, it took some time to get the right people in there and the wrong people out of there.
Right.
And just the way Brady Cook and Johnny Walker were talking about Coach Drinkwitz as a leader and the way that he knows how to get the right people in there, it was kind of inspiring.
Yeah.
And there's just no way that can't be true at this point. Like winning at Missouri is not an easy thing to do. And obviously this is a different era of college football than maybe when Gary Pinkel was here or something like that. But you just don't win games like Missouri's won in the last 2 years without knowing how to build a program.
Yeah. And this game was such a perfect example of that, being down 10 points and then relying on all three phases of the game down the stretch to pull out the win. It was very impressive. The defense getting that final stop with Iowa going for it on fourth down, and they just closed the door.
Yeah.
Like Corey Flagg jumped over the line. Dalen Carnell was there. I think he went backwards on that play. It was like a loss of 2 on 4th and 1.
In like prior years, that feels like that's the game doesn't end right there.
Right.
You know, like we end up sweating for another 10, 15 minutes and then we eventually lose.
Right.
And a few days ago it was like, here's the game. If they don't get it, it's over. And then boom, it was over. And it was just like that. Like just blink your eyes and the whole game is gone. Like, because we just shut the door on them. And that feels like historically that's not a thing that we've done in clutch moments.
Yeah, watching that Arizona State-Texas game, I felt a lot of sympathy for Arizona State, the players, the fans. I felt like that
being
was
right there.
Yeah, to get the first round bye in the first 12-team playoff, I don't know. That just, I was kind of torn because I was thinking two things. I was thinking, well, Arizona State took Texas to double overtime in the college football playoff. That should be, and Arizona State had a good enough season, won their conference, got a first round bye. That should be like inspiration for any of these fringe playoff teams.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to think about the path to the playoff, comparing like the Big 12, Arizona State coming out of the Big 12 with 2 losses, I think. And we were talking about a month ago, there was a scenario where the Big 12, if things fell a certain way, it was maybe only like a 4% chance, but there was a way where the Big 12 might have been left out of the playoff altogether because the big teams of that conference kind of didn't perform well down the stretch. But I just feel like it has to be inspiring if you're like Missouri, South Carolina, like to see Alabama falter, not make the playoff, and know like you're just a couple plays away from making it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, the first round of the playoffs, not a great endorsement of how of like the process change, but the second round though, Arizona State hanging tough, like one of the most entertaining games I've watched in a long time. I feel like, especially a non-Mizzou game. And I mean, we're literally recording this in the middle of this bowl game, but Oregon and Ohio State are playing right now, and Oregon's the number 1 overall seed, and they're
undefeated.
They're undefeated. They're down 31-0 right now. So
they already beat Ohio State earlier in the year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's wild.
I think Mizzou fans will always be looking at this season with, what if Brady Cook had been healthy all season?
Yeah.
What if he had been healthy for the Alabama game? And what if Connor Wigman didn't exist? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. What if Marcel Reed just played that game?
Yeah.
Instead of Connor Wigman.
Right. But I do think with the timing of it, we've talked about it all season just about, and this was always set up to be the season. First year with 12-team playoff, bringing everybody back on offense.
Which that's going to lead in disappointment.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
We should have all known in the back of our minds, like, this is probably going to happen. Like, we're probably going to be disappointed because how are we not?
Right.
But, I think this bowl game will, like, potentially give us some answers that we so desperately desire when we're reflecting on this year of, like, why, like, what happened? Like, why was the offense so bad? And, the bowl game was, like, what I felt like the offense was going to be all year. And we did it without Luther Burden, and we did it mostly without Theo Weiss. So I'm wondering if Brady Cook really, truly just wasn't healthy enough to be himself for a lot of the season.
And I think it proves that SEC defense is way better than the Big Ten, way better than Iowa.
It just means more.
Yeah, exactly. Thinking about next season, since we won't be around to talk about it too much, I thought maybe we should give some thoughts, just kind of projecting out there. Kevin Coleman, what do we think here? What's the, I'm already forgetting the kid's name that transferred from the Sun Belt at running back. Hardy.
Yeah.
Coleman, Hardy, Pribula.
Yeah.
We got Marquise Johnson out there. Got Daniel Blood. Got Joshua Manning.
Yeah, it's really, really hard to project, honestly, with like a bunch of guys that have never played together.
Yeah.
And that's just probably what college football is. It's going to be a lot of the times now. I mentioned last week, I feel like it's probably still pretty run heavy. I feel like you got the offensive line, you got the personnel to still be kind of ground and pound if you want to be. But the wide receivers are going to have to step up, and I think they will. But I think
it feels good. Getting Coleman
Yeah.
to be like the senior leader of the wide receiver core coming in, that feels huge to me.
Yeah.
And he's done it like on good teams, bad teams, like different coaches. He's produced different offensive systems. He's produced. Yeah, it's so interesting though. Like with expectations, it's going to be a little bit refreshing to kind of have wide open expectations.
Yeah,
but that also sets up for potential. You know, if you go 6-6 again, how quickly will the fan base revert to? You know, it feels like you can't do it. You can't revert because what are you going to say? Like it was all Brady Cook. I don't think you can say we're back to pre-Brady Cook times and think that like...
No, I mean, we're losing a lot of guys, though. I mean, we're not losing just Brady Cook, but we're losing a lot of important faces. I just think, I mean, it's just there's way too much nuance that we don't know. And, you know, I think if you just told me our record, then maybe I could tell you if I'm going to be disappointed. But I think there's way too many little details and nuances along the way that we don't know. And it's really hard to project.
Yeah.
Like how we're going to feel at the end of the year.
It feels like we should be looking forward to like a building block season. If Pribula has 2 seasons left, let's figure some stuff out next year. And then his senior year, we're ready to roll.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I just said, I don't know how I'm going to feel because there's so many nuances, but I mean, I still feel like we should be in a bowl game.
Yeah.
If we're winning 7-8 games, I would think we're probably pretty happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The Music City Bowl is the 4th bowl appearance in a row. The only reason it's not 5 for 5 for Eli Drinkwitz is because of the COVID last time we were supposed to play Iowa. So keep that streak going next year, and I think you're looking in a positive direction no matter what. Man, it's going to be sad not seeing Brady Cook out there, though. I'm so hung up on that. He's just such a legend. He's been there for so long.
It's going to be weird.
It is going to be weird.
Yeah, I mentioned the post-game presser after Iowa. I mean, it was like it was like old friends just sitting around the campfire like reminiscing and telling stories. I mean, that's what it felt like. And obviously, if they had lost the game, it probably wouldn't have felt that way, but and maybe it would have a little bit, I don't know. But, you know, just Coach continually talking about what Brady Cook has done for his career, his family. You know, Johnny Walker, he at one point he literally was talking about Johnny Walker and that he had an injury. He didn't say what it was, but he said, he kind of paused and he's like, I'm just going to say it. You know, Johnny Walker has an injury. He didn't have to play. He's about to declare for the draft, which he did today publicly. He declared for the NFL draft. He was just like, couldn't stop talking about how proud of him that he played. He had some of the biggest plays in the game, and he at one point literally said, "I love you, man."
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny Walker's like, "I love you, coach." And it's just like, man, like it's weird to think that it's weird to think about Mizzou without these guys.
For sure. Yeah, it's going to be a new era. Pivoting here to basketball. Unless you have anything else football related?
I don't think so.
Closing the door on an era. Basketball. The only thing that's happened since we last talked is Missouri beat Alabama State 82-65, and that is the last easy game of the season.
Yeah,
it's a grind the rest of the way.
Welcome to the major leagues.
Yeah. Luckily, Missouri got that huge win against Kansas because Illinois and Memphis were the other 2 opportunities to get a marquee win in non-conference. They didn't get it done in either one of those.
I'll take it.
But yeah, we'll take that every single time. And avoided a huge disaster by losing to any of those other teams. So we're sitting here January 1st. We're about to start SEC basketball. The first game up is this Saturday on the road against Auburn.
Probably the worst game of the whole year coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, it's a road game. It's the first conference game, and Auburn is quite possibly the best team in college basketball.
Yeah, they're well coached. They're talented. They're old and experienced. They're just incredibly good.
Yes, I think they're number 2 in the AP poll. They're number 1 on KenPom, number 1 on offense, number 11 on defense. And the thing you don't want to hear, but it's unfortunate, but it's true. Auburn's offense, number 1 in the country in not turning the ball over.
I thought you were going to say free throw shooting.
Yeah, they're only 77th in free throw shooting, but they do not turn the ball over.
Do they rebound though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They're not bad at rebounding.
Not finding any edges here.
Yeah. I think there's not a lot of optimism if you're looking at this from anybody that anybody that Auburn plays the rest of the season. They're favored in every game the rest of the way. Their only loss comes to Duke back about a month ago. Duke, the number 2 team in KenPom. And Duke was able to pull that one out 84-78. And I think it was at Cameron Indoor Stadium. So Auburn took probably maybe the best or second best team in the country, took them down to the wire at their place back in December. Janai Broome, maybe best player in the country. He's going to be right up there for all the awards and everything. He is leading Auburn in points, rebounds, and assists per game. 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 3.4 assists per game.
Averaging a double-double. Nice.
Yeah. Surely those numbers dip a little bit in conference play, but he's just playing so efficiently. He's rebounding the ball. He's distributing. He's getting blocks.
Would you say he's much of a pro prospect?
He's an interesting case because he's a senior, and he's a 5th-year senior as well. Spent 2 years at Morehead State and 3 years at Auburn.
Usually the NBA is kind of out on you all if you're 5 years into a college career.
For sure. And he's listed at 6'10", 240, but he's not overly athletic. He kind of...
Got a receding hairline, though.
Yeah, that's true. Not as bad as who was that big man for Kansas? That Perry Ellis. Remember, he was in college for 10 seasons.
Yes.
Yeah. So Janai Broome, just super efficient with the ball, and I feel like what Missouri's going to have to do with him is that Auburn's gonna play through him no matter what. But I think you have to just double team him. When he gets the ball in the paint, you got to send a double team and make him be a facilitator and not a scorer. Even against Duke, that game that they lost, he had 20 points, 12 rebounds, I think. So
down night.
Yeah, exactly. So I just don't know what you do with him exactly, except maybe throw Josh Gray at him to be physical and then bring a double team and just make him give up the ball.
It does feel like this is a Josh Gray game. He's meant for this. Try to slow down Broome in any possible way.
Maybe try to keep him out at the perimeter. He'll shoot a 3, but he's not best at that. So if he's shooting 3s, you probably live with that.
Yeah, for sure.
They do have some wings and guards that can make 3s. So even when he's not scoring, if he's inefficient from the field, he's still finding open guys from deep.
Yeah.
I think maybe Missouri will have, I don't know. I hope that they can find something offensively, getting to the foul line, getting in the paint. But we've seen when teams have pretty good defensive anchors down low, Missouri has shown that sometimes they're willing to just kind of get to the rim and throw up something that doesn't always look like it has a good chance of going in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think and Caleb Grill is back. He was back for the Alabama State game, so he spread the floor a little bit there, maybe a little bit more balanced offensively. I was going to look up how much he actually played. Only played 11 minutes. Didn't really need him in that one, and he was 2 of 7 from 3 in 11 minutes. So that kind of makes sense. But if he's back, I look for him to be right back in there in that 25, 30 minute per game range.
I don't know what it is, but I definitely feel like those away games in the deep South, like they haven't gone well for Missouri.
No.
Like any game that you got to play in like Mississippi or Alabama or any of those states in the South, like I don't know.
Missouri's been in the SEC for a while. Yeah. And every time I turn on the TV and they're at Auburn, at Mississippi State, whatever,
blown out.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not a good time.
I don't know what it is about that.
Yeah, let's go play at Tennessee, play at Kentucky. I don't know. I feel a little better about that. Go play at Florida. But those
Yes.
Mississippi State's court, I don't ever want to see it again.
It makes me feel gross.
Yeah, Auburn's floor, no thank you. But yeah, we'll be
there. Well, there was one time in particular, I'm pretty sure this was maybe only 2 or 3 seasons ago, but we played at Auburn, and that game was over 5 minutes in.
Yeah.
I mean, we lost by what, like 30
The
plus?
definition of getting run off the floor, too. Auburn was just up and down.
Was that Dennis Gates' first season? Like, we were actually pretty good that year.
Let me try to find it.
Let's try to find it.
You'll have to fill time for me while I do that.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think it was Dennis Gates' first season. Like, we were actually having a good year and kind of went into that game expecting to have a competitive game, and just Auburn was just doing everything right.
Yeah, I gotcha. You're exactly right. That was February of 2023. Missouri headed to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, Kobe Brown.
Yeah.
The whole crew.
Riding high a little bit off the big win, the buzzer beater over Tennessee.
Okay.
The following game, go to Auburn and lose 89-56.
Oh my gosh.
And Auburn started the game on a 25-4 run.
I was going to say, it feels like the first couple of minutes were just death.
Yeah. 25-4 run.
Well, that explains why I have like PTSD about playing at Auburn.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, Janai Broom went for 20 and 10 in that game.
He probably didn't even play in the second half.
So that's going to be a tough one for Missouri basketball. I think you got to just try to get the ball out of Broom's hand and force the issue on offense, get to the foul line, drive the ball. Fingers crossed you can maybe get him in foul trouble and turn him over, I guess.
That's probably their one weakness is like, I mean, they're still a great team, but they, against good competition, maybe they'll end up being a little bit one-dimensional. If you can get Broom, if he somehow has an off night or gets in foul trouble or something, like, where do they turn? And let's hope we find out.
Yeah. Yeah, and outside of him, like, they've got a backup center that's also 6'11", but everybody else is like 6'7" or shorter. So, I don't know. Missouri's gonna, the whole like having 12 guys that can play that Missouri's trying to do, that kind of extreme depth. This is the kind of game where you need it. Get the tempo going. Just throw bodies at Janai Broom. Mm-hmm. After the Auburn game, there's some winnable games. 2 home games against LSU and Vanderbilt. So hopefully, no matter how the Auburn game goes, you can shake it off and recover a little bit with 2 winnable games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those are 2 of the most winnable games you're going to see in the whole SEC slate. Yeah. So you kind of need those.
Yeah. I had one more little football thing that I wanted to ask you. It's kind of abstract, philosophical, as you said earlier. I was thinking about like, I'm done with basketball unless you got something else there. And producer Cameron, I wanted your input on this as well. Watching football, NFL and college in 2024, it almost feels to me like the perspective of the fan is more similar to the perspective of the coach than it would have been 20, 30 years ago. I think with like fantasy football or like all the advanced analytics and stuff and like the media, how much you're hearing from the coaches, hearing them mic'd up, hearing them in interviews, I feel like it's very trendy, and I enjoy the content of like whoever, Sean McVay or somebody like breaking down a play or I don't know, with just so many YouTube channels and TikToks breaking everything down. I feel like it's an interesting spot for sports fans in general to almost have enough insight to start thinking like a coach and get in the coach's head and try to understand decision making and stuff.
And just like getting angry when things don't go well and stuff.
Well,
I'm sure that's something that's probably already always happened to some extent.
Right.
But yeah, that's an interesting question. And you're probably right. I mean, we have way more access to things than we ever did at any point. And I mean, there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks on the line too. And maybe there's just the microphones are louder nowadays too.
Right.
But
everybody has a podcast.
Everybody.
But for me personally, it almost makes me more like it makes me defer to the coach's decision making more, where it's like you kind of can get in their head easier. And I feel like the more clueless a fan is, the more like the easier
Loud.
it is. Yes, the easier it is to be loud and like disagree with the coach loudly. And that was probably just like more normal in the past. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the guys that I listen to for fantasy football, he's always like, whenever you're like analyzing something with players, he's like, assume rational coaching.
Right.
Like everything that you're making your decisions on, you should just assume that the coaching is rational. Otherwise, you're gonna like drive yourself crazy trying to like make decisions on things.
Yeah, that is true. Like, I mean, it does feel like that's actually where I think maybe the fans think they know as good as anybody is like personnel decision making. Like, this guy should be playing over this guy. This guy's better than this guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, we even do that a little bit with like Coach Gates and like his in like the basketball rotations and stuff. Like, we kind of criticize when I'm sure he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly the strategy behind
his plan. Literally every this is his job.
Right.
Is to like do all this.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is interesting. Like, yeah, probably like people are like more outlets for like complaining about things now. Like, you just hear it a lot more.
Yeah.
But that is kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah, we get more. I just feel like we get to be in the head of the coach more than ever before. It's been that way for a little while, but I think that's the most fun place to be, because if you the more you're in the coach's head and the coach is being honest and open with things, and I feel like that's something that Coach Drinkwitz in like recent years, that's a little bit of a transformation that we've witnessed, is him just being very open. And
some like SEC media days question, and like 10 minutes later, he's wrapping up his explanation.
yes,
of some
exactly.
Play. Yeah.
Like, when he's in a good mood and you ask a decent question, like, he'll just kind of explain
like, well,
his
we do
thought
this,
process
and,
there.
yeah. He's explaining why they do those like horizontal pass plays and stuff.
Yeah. I feel like if for him, everything is clearly so like systematized in his football program that he just kind of shares how they do things sometimes. It's kind of fun. I feel like it takes some of the anger out of me though, because I'm like, I'm always just like assuming that they know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, and anytime I see like, whether it's a coach or like, YouTuber or someone like breaking something down, I'm like, as someone who played football, I have no idea. Like, I couldn't go out and like coach or teach anything really about football. Like, that would be, I'd have to learn a lot. And I'm just like, dude, for as much as I like watch and enjoy football, I know basically nothing.
Yeah.
It's probably us being like really results oriented and just like reacting individually to every single thing that happens. Like, I think there's probably so much process that we don't know. And like, obviously you could have the right process like 80% of the time, and things are not going to go the way you expect it to or the way you want it to every time. And so we're just seeing the results of the process, and it's, I don't know, that makes it really easy to criticize.
It's just a crazy thing for the coaching staffs to balance the long-term outlook and like trusting the process and sticking to the plan when the results aren't there right away.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just an interesting thing I was thinking when I was watching highlights. I didn't have time to watch.
Was that like a letter to like Williams Winery or something like that? Like, trust the process? Or was that like an indirect?
I feel like that was maybe more directed at fans than anybody else. Just like, I don't know.
We're all that like freshman, that talented freshman who's not getting playing time.
Yeah. That's all of us. We're ready to abandon the process as soon as anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably all I've got. There's not much else to talk about. The football team going out on a high note is always fun, even when like the bowl games are devalued and everything, and it doesn't seem like anybody cares. I know Coach Drinkwitz and Brady Cook definitely cared about that one.
Yeah, for sure.
You got anything else for the folks, Kyle?
I don't think so. We'll do it. We'll do it one more time.
One more time, and then who knows after that? You would never shut the door permanently to anything, but one more time next week for this version of the Missouri
era.
Sports Podcast. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters: Britt Treese, Ryan Demore, Tristan, Ben Smith, Parker, Daddy JD, Tim Keens, Tyler Harsel, Brandon Groffalo, Brandon Hanks, Matthew Taylor, Lewis Hernandez, Joshua Jacobson, Devontae, and Aaron Houlihan. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. We love you, and you can find this podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, of course. And you can email us on Missouri Sports Podcast at gmail.com. And we're on Twitter at Missouri Sports Pod. Did I already say that? Did I say that twice?
I wasn't listening.
I scuffed that.
You'll get the hang of it one of these times.
I'll get it
You can
someday.
find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next week. One more time.